Children, the time of ascension has arrived. Oh, for the love of God, haven't any of you ever been in a cult before?
Dungeons & Dragons, the godfather of all board games. Everyone's heard of it, everyone's tried it. Well, almost everyone. You, of course, have those overzealous Christians who believe that the game is the spawn of Satan and it will lead your child down a dark, sinful path. Or just keep them a virgin for the rest of their life. Of course, nowadays, we all know how ridiculous that sounds. It is just a game by the end of the day. But during the 80s, parents wanted this game dead.
The game of Dungeons & Dragons has been around since the early 70s, is played by an estimated 5 million people. It is also the target of a group of concerned parents in the United States who call themselves BADD, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons & Dragons.
Despite the moral panic, D&D went on to become a cultural phenomenon. Ever since its release back in 1974, the game, as of 2017, sold between 12 million to 15 million copies in North America alone. Many filmmakers and directors like Jon Favreau have spoken about the game and how much of a huge influence it is on their craft. Even some famous actors like the late Robin Williams and even Vin Diesel have admitted to playing the game. Vin Diesel plays Dungeons & Dragons. I never would have guessed that in a million years.
I heard you play Dungeons & Dragons. Is that true?
Yes, I played Dungeons & Dragons for 20 years.
Wow. And still, to this day, as an adult,
Well,
you
I haven't
play?
played recently.
You haven't? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because, I can't imagine you playing Dungeons & Dragons. I imagine you beating up the kids that will play Dungeons & Dragons.
I am Colder the Witch Hunter, the 800-year-old immortal.
Whether you love it or think it's the devil preying on little kids, the impact that Dungeons & Dragons has had on people cannot be denied. Movies, TV spin-offs, even YouTube, the home of self-made media, got big into D&D thanks to the series' Critical Role. Despite being nearly 50 years old now, it's not going away anytime soon. If anything, with the release of the new movie Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, it proves that D&D is more alive than it's ever been. In a modern age where being nerdy is suddenly the cool thing to be, I can only see it becoming even more successful from here on out. Now, as for me, it's not my cup of tea, I'm sorry. I've played it a couple of times with some old friends, but I could just never get into it the same way they did. I was always more of a video game guy. Why use my imagination when the hard part's already been done for me? On top of that, I'm not gonna lie, I had no intention of going to see this movie. From the trailers, it just looked kind of mindless and stupid. The jokes were really not doing it for me. It really just looked like one of those Joss Whedon wannabes. You know what I'm talking about. But some friends of mine who themselves are avid D&D players invited me to go along to see it with them, so I did. Sure, I could have been editing my Don Bluth ranking, but fuck it, let's watch this instead. And, yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. As a casual moviegoer, I can't speak to the film's accuracy to the game, but my friends could, and they said, as a D&D campaign goes, it was really well done. It was cool to see all of the elements of the game be brought to life in such an amazing way. As a movie goes, however, it's just kind of okay. And as the movie critic of the group, yeah, it was okay. It has some genuinely well put together fight scenes and really imaginative ideas like this wizard staff that works like a portal gun, or this one part where two wizards use giant hands to arm wrestle each other. It's pretty fun stuff when you're looking at it like a popcorn flick. I know I wasn't going to get anything super profound from Dungeons & Dragons, but this movie was kind of good. Now, is it a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes good? Absolutely not. It's like a 7 out of 10 at its absolute peak. While its strength comes from the imagination, world building, cinematography, choreography, and all that stuff, the characters and writing is where it starts to lack. As I expected from the trailer, the dialogue is genuinely terrible. You base yourself in a fantasy world with dragons and owl bears and castles, and yet everybody talks like they're in a snippy superhero film. Yeah, this movie suffers from Joss Whedon syndrome. The characters talk like they live in the modern day, and there are so many instances where they feel like they need to shoehorn in some dumb joke, and very rarely do they land. Sometimes they get a laugh, like the scene in the cemetery where they're resurrecting the dead, or this one instance involving a clone bard, but a lot of them just feel so forced and awkward. Sometimes they'll kill whatever emotion the moment is going for, like when they meet Doric while she's explaining why she'll join their quest. She explains that her people are being targeted by Forge for some dumb reason they never really elaborate on, but just as it seems like they're gonna go into it, they make some dumb joke about taking her share of the treasure. There's another one where this paladin is leaving the group, and they make a joke about him walking straight, and it just goes on way too long. Like, we get it, guys. The joke is he's majestic as fuck. Most of the performances are good, but Chris Pine does just feel like his typical Chris Piney self. Like, if you've seen him in a movie before, then you know what I'm talking about. Jack Frost, Steve Trevor, he's just that character again. Justin Smith can't act to save his life. I'm sorry. He keeps dipping in and out of his accent throughout the entire film, almost to the point where it's kind of hilarious. I can't even tell if his character is supposed to have an accent or not, because he's never been consistent with it from the beginning. The characters are pretty simplistic all around. They're not bland, but they're not exactly interesting. They're each given a brief flashback that explains their motivations, and then we gotta move on. The bard wants to save his daughter. The barbarian also wants to save the daughter because she's the surrogate mother. Justin Smith is a simp who wants to fuck the druid, and the druid just wants to help her people. It's kind of like Star Wars Rogue One, where they weren't bad, but they just work enough, you know? You don't remember their names, but they have decent motivations and chemistry to where at least you can remember what they did in the movie. The main villain is so stupid, you guys. So, without spoiling the ending, the main villain's plan involves trapping thousands of people in the stadium so she can cast the spell that'll turn them all into a zombie army so she can take over the tri-state area or something. I don't really know. But here's the thing. While she's casting this spell and this dark, ominous red cloud comes down, no one runs away from it. Instead, they're lured out of the arena by something the main characters do. So instead of running away from the obviously evil cloud, they're enticed by what the main characters do for them. I mean, okay, that's cool, I get. Wait, why didn't you just lock them in? The Red Witch is actually surprised that everyone is just leaving the area while she's casting the spell. Like, why didn't you just close the doors or something to where they couldn't leave? Like, what did you expect? For everyone to just be cool with your evil red cloud? Also, why do the main characters have to do something to the attendees to get them to leave the stadium? The fucking red cloud of death should be enough of a motivation. It's not like a little puff either. It's a huge, full-blown tornado coming down on top of them. This would be a huge hole in your plan, lady, if the public just wasn't so blind, deaf, and dumb. On top of that, she's really boring. She has zero personality or motivation to do this, but the movie needs a villain, so fuck it. I don't even know why you have a Red Witch, when Forge is a decent enough antagonist on his own. He actually has a connection with the main character, he has a motivation that's easy to pick up on, and on top of that, he's shown to be genuinely cunning and can get his way easily. Sure, he's a pathetic thief, but he's already shown way more potential than the boring wizard who wants a zombie army because, I don't know, I guess she wants to play Call of Duty Zombies? I don't fucking know. And speaking of Forge, what the hell is up with that opening of this movie? It is front-loaded as shit. I swear, it's like almost 20 minutes of pure exposition and flashbacks. Why do you need so much explaining? Just tell the story as it is. Even an outsider like me wouldn't need that long to understand how the world works and what creatures inhabit it. It's just very tedious, and the pacing feels so sluggish compared to the rest of the film. You know what? I think I take it back. I think the movie's more of a 6 out of 10 at its peak. Its characters, while fine, aren't particularly interesting, the dialogue is annoying, the villain is stupid and lame, but it's got enough fun battle sequences and creative creatures and cool ideas here to where it is a pretty fun popcorn movie. And I guess that's really the best way to sum it up. It's fun, just not particularly that deep. But at the same time, I don't think it was trying to be. Like my friend said, as a D&D campaign, it was a fun, imaginative adventure that succeeded in bringing the game to life for them. But as a movie, it's just okay. They seem to enjoy it more than I did, likely because they actually know the game and play it regularly. As for me, I'll probably just stick to my controller. Not hating on the game at all, of course, to each their own, it's just not right for me. For what it's worth though, I had fun, and if you're a D&D player, I definitely recommend it. My friends certainly would, and as a film goer goes, maybe you'll enjoy it that way too. I had fun with it. It's definitely flawed in the writing territory, and if you're really getting sick of that Joss Whedon-esque dialogue that you hear a lot of in movies nowadays, that might be a major turnoff, but I think once you get past those tedious first 20 minutes, it does gradually get better as the movie continues. All in all, if I had to roll a 10-sided die, Honor Among Thieves would land on a 6. Or wait, you guys use a 20-sided die, right? In that case, 12. Yeah, it would land on 12. It's a 12 out of 20. Like, whatever helps you nerds out.